Hello, Nate. Welcome.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for agreeing to join us today. We're looking forward to hearing more about your story.
Yeah, I always love talking about myself. Who doesn't?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, but before we jump in, I
Yes.
have to know, tell me what a financial therapist does. I've never heard that title, and I was immediately drawn to it for some reason because it's intriguing. So I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, it's definitely a sexy title. So a financial therapist is a person that helps you not just with the numbers of a situation, but also the emotional, psychological, and relational aspects of money. Um, it's something that I think a lot of people intuitively get that money and emotions and psychology is connected, but most of us don't really know where to go to get that kind of help. A traditional, psychotherapist doesn't have a lot of training in money topics, and most financial planners and financial advisors don't have training in, emotions and
Right.
people. So that's where a financial therapist comes in. So it's really fun work. I get to talk with people about their money stories, their beliefs around money, money traumas, things that have happened in their past that, impact not only their psychological well-being, but also how they spend. Our financial behavior is also highly connected to our emotional state. So
Okay.
that's where I sit.
Love it. I love it. And tell us a little bit about how you came to be a financial therapist.
Yeah. Uh, with luck. I I was getting my master's degree in couples and family therapy at Kansas State University. I was in the right place at the right time. K-State is kind of a hub for financial therapy, but I didn't know that when I went there. Um, and it was while I was in that program, I I was seeing my own therapist and realizing a lot of my own psychological issues revolved around money. My parents fought about money, and it was something I kind of hated. I had a lot of avoidance around my own money issues. Um, and then, flash forward, I'm married and I'm having to live by a budget and, make smart financial decisions. And I really had a hard time with it. And it's not because of the actual numbers, it's because of what those numbers meant. It's what it represented.
Hmm.
So I was lucky to find financial therapy pretty early in my career, and I've never looked back. So I've been in it probably about 6 years now. It's a dream.
Yeah, awesome. And it looks like as the kind of trajectory of your career in financial therapy, um, you have multiple businesses going, or maybe a couple of different names going. Tell me a little bit more about the business that you own, or the businesses that you own or involved in.
Yeah, so I own two private practices.
Right.
One is just me doing financial therapy. I tend to focus on couples with financial conflict. And I also work with individuals treating financial trauma. So those are probably the two main areas. And then I have my my dream practice that I've been wanting to build for 5+ years, the Financial Therapy Clinical Institute, where I actually work with as a part of a treatment team. So
Hmm.
what this means is I work with a financial planner and a financial counselor, and we provide kind of a collaborative treatment for people. So with me, they're working on, you know, psychological pieces, relational pieces, emotional pieces of money. The financial counselor, they're doing things like building a budget or getting a debt repayment plan or like kind of that day-to-day money management stuff. And then the financial planner comes in and works more on the long-term saving for retirement goals, saving for kids' college, whatever big picture view.
Okay.
Um, it's it's really cool because as part of a team, I don't have to be an expert on everything. Um, and we can work together collaboratively. And so when they're building, their budget with the financial counselor, and they have a huge emotional upset when they start talking about their eating out line item. They can, the financial counselor will let me know. And then in my next session with them, we can talk about it. So it's just, it makes things a lot more fluid.
Yeah, yeah. And it sounds like the team has the right players to be holistic, right? Like you cover the whole picture.
Yep, that's exactly what we're going for. It's holistic care.
Yeah. Okay. So where did the idea for, is it FTCI? Is that what you call it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Where did that idea come from? Was that your idea? You were sitting around a table with a bunch of peers and you're like, let's start this organization, or how did that come about?
It actually came about when I was in school. We talked about how financial professionals and mental health professionals need to talk more, need to collaborate more, but no one was doing it. It was theoretical. And the most that had really happened up to this point is a release of information was signed, and so like they could talk to each other, but nothing had happened where treatment and like the goals were the same, and the planner and the counselor and the therapist, they were all working together as one. And so I wanted to do that since 2018. I finally took the plunge a little over a year ago, and it's been like it's one of those things where it feels like this is my home for the next 25, 30 years. Like
Okay.
this is my my sandbox. I'm creating what I need from it. It's no longer just me doing my own little clinical practice. I still have that, but it's really something bigger. And so we're providing clinical services, and we also provide professional training to these different professions, on being more holistic.
Hmm.
We also have a research arm as well, so we're involved in the academic progression of financial therapy.
Awesome. I love it. So if you can see yourself there for 20 years, how whatever, what do you hope to accomplish? What's the big mission, or what's the big vision of um, FTCI as you guys kind of set forth in this journey?
Really, my biggest hope is that we culturally and as professionals learn to see money holistically. Um, we see it as part of the human experience. Uh, the numbers and the finances isn't just a math problem, it's an emotion problem. Um, and we need to expand our mind when it comes to how we think about money and money solutions.
Hmm.
Um, so often in typical personal finance, you hear like, well, budgeting, like if you budget, that will solve all your problems. Um, but budgets are important tools. It is important to track spending. It's important to track things so you know what's coming in and going out. But a huge part of what helps us follow a budget is how we process our emotions.
Hmm.
Um, I'll give you a tiny example, but
Sure.
there's bigger ones too. Um, if I go grocery shopping and I am feeling good, like I just had an awesome day, I'm feeling really productive. I go in, get the groceries I'm hoping to get, and I leave. And on another day, I go grocery shopping. I had a terrible day. I am just exhausted and stressed. And I get to the checkout aisle and I see the candy bar. I don't know about you, but I'm definitely a stress eater. And I buy the candy bar. It wasn't part of my original budget. It wasn't what I was anticipating getting when I went into the store. But because of the emotional state I was in, I made a financial choice.
Hmm.
And it's not that the candy bar is going to make or break anything usually, but we do this on a bigger scale all the time. Like retail therapy, we
Yeah.
make a joke, we make a joke about it, but it's a thing. Like we shop to fill emotional voids
Hmm.
or to deal with emotional problems all the time.
Yeah.
Um, the
I'm
whole
sure we could spend 4 hours on retail therapy and not even scratch the surface.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's deep work here. So my hope is one that professionals learn to see it differently, and we can be part of a cultural shift that says, hey, you're not broken just because money is hard. Money is hard because of a lot of different reasons. And we need to foster shame-free money experiences.
Yeah. Do most of the, and I'm not asking you to violate any privacy issues
Sure. Yeah.
or concerns. So if you can't answer this, that's fine.
Yeah.
At a high level, most of the people that come to you or to the organization, are they coming as individuals and they're worried about or they're concerned about their personal life, um, or are some of them business owners such as yourself that are also struggling with this um, money issue as it relates to their business?
Both.
Okay.
I would say probably like 70-30. 70 are just, average people, not business owners.
Mhm.
But yeah, a good 30% have some form of their own income stream that they're directly responsible for. And again, it's a hugely emotional thing. The process of being an entrepreneur it's awful. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. Um,
But you're
I,
doing it multiple
I,
times.
I know, I don't learn yet. But kidding aside, like the managing business money and managing personal money is very deep. Like it, our sense of worth, our sense of failure versus success, our resilience in opposition or working through challenges, all this comes up
Mhm.
when you own a business. And, I if I can be vulnerable here, it's something that I sometimes really struggle with. Like that, not, let me think of how I want to say this. The thing that's really difficult is knowing what is my business and what is me.
Mm.
What is business failures or business learning moments, things that I need to change, versus what is Nate's failures and Nate's insecurities. And it's easier said than done. It's
Yeah.
really easy to internalize our business results as a measure of our self-worth, but it's a terrible measure of our self-worth because there's so much in business that has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
So many external factors here.
Yeah. Yeah. Our self identity really gets tied into that business and the financial outcome, positive or negative to that business. So I'm sure you spend a lot of time trying to unravel all of that for people and help them navigate those issues.
Yeah, it's very it's fun work, and it's very meaningful. Like there aren't many places where business owners can go to get this type of support. Like um and one thing we know about emotions, shame thrives in isolation.
Mm.
Um, And so if we can start having these conversations, maybe it starts in a therapy office, but then maybe it extends to a romantic partner, a friend, family members, and make this more of a like, hey, this emotions and money, this is standard for every human being that has ever lived.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
so let's talk about this more.
Yeah. So I'm curious, you said you took the plunge about a year ago,
Mhm.
started this new venture, and it's you and a group of partners.
Yes, I
Yeah.
have. Uh-huh. Yeah.
So what's that dialogue like? A bunch of um, therapists sitting around who all know that the issues with money, everything we just talked about as it relates to entrepreneurship, and now you're sitting around going, well, let's do this. Like, we know that it's going to struggle, and we know that we all have, demons that we're dealing with in some form or fashion, but let's do this.
Mhm.
How'd that journey kick off?
I w- Again, luck. I work with some excellent colleagues that are intentional, that are insightful, that do their own work. They see their own therapists, like and this is something we talk about openly. Like, I'm very lucky, and I will say I was smart in that I picked people that I knew I can work with you and trust that you can own your stuff, you
Yeah.
know? Nobody doesn't have stuff, nobody doesn't have traumas and things to work through, but I'm very lucky that I work with people that see money holistically.
Hmm.
Uh, It's it's been a dream, and I think that's something I try to be very intentional about is picking people that I vibe with, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. So my experience says that the concept of therapy can be scary for people for a lot
Hmm.
of reasons.
Yeah.
If someone wasn't ready to go to a therapist and deal with some of the financial traumas or issues that you guys help people work through, is there a like a first step, a dip your toe in the water? Are there books or tools or YouTube or pocket? Like, how would you say go try this first if it's too scary to come visit with us?
Yeah. There's a couple of really good resources. Two that come to mind if you like podcasts. One is from Mind Money Balance.
Hmm.
The podcast host is Lindsay Bryan Podvin. She's amazing. She's another financial therapist, but her podcast is just there's so many good nuggets in there. Another one I really like is Ed Combs, Coambs. He has a podcast specifically on couples and money dynamics. Um, so that's another really great resource. Lindsay Brian Podvin also has a workbook called the Financial Anxiety Workbook,
Hmm.
but it is if you like, self-help books kind of thing, and you like that as a way to as a medium for your growth. That's probably my favorite book so far that comes closest to what I want, but um, or what I do in financial therapy. Um, but honestly, if you go to the Financial Therapy Association, which is the professional body for financial therapists, you can search the directory, and lots of us have, our own content that create the
Oh,
my business has, a LinkedIn page, uh, and we put out, I like our content. I think it's pretty good.
sure.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, there's definitely free resources out there as well.
Okay. Okay. Super. So you mentioned entrepreneurship, and we talked at the outset that you have a couple of different organizations. What's the most significant learning that you've had since being a business owner?
Mhm. Self-compassion matters a lot.
Hmm. Say more about that.
Um, that's a good therapy follow-up, by the way. Say more about that.
Yeah.
As I was saying, like it's really easy to internalize self-worth from what our business does. We have this dream. Most of us, when we start entrepreneurship, we want something. We have this outcome, this goal. Um, a lot of times it's, yeah, I want to like make money and be able to support myself and have some of the pros of entrepreneurship life. But a lot of us have like, this would be really cool, like we are vision driven. Um, the problem is our vision is often something that's years away from where we are,
Hmm.
you know, and that dissonance, that difference between our present circumstance and the place we want to be can be very uncomfortable to sit in. And so we either dream too much and we aren't focused on present problems and present issues that need addressing, or we're so focused on the present issues that we forget the why. What are we actually moving towards?
Right.
Uh, so, like all things, balance is important. But I think one of the things that helps us stay balanced is remembering I'm doing the best I can with what I have. There inevitably, I'm going to make mistakes in my business. I'm going to do things that years from now I might look back and go, that probably wasn't the best choice. But that can't paralyze me from making decisions intentionally. The best I can do is what I have in the moment, and I can be compassionate, give myself grace for learning. Um, no one has done uh, no one has done this exact thing before.
Right.
Like starting, there's lots of people that started businesses. No one has started your business
Mm.
before. Um, Even if you've been running your business for 5 to 10 years, you haven't been in this particular life circumstance before, probably. Like
Yeah.
you're learning, you're growing, give yourself compassion. And that compassion is what allows you to be intentional. And so that you're not getting stuck in shame spirals, you're not getting stuck in anxiety. It says, okay, of course I feel anxious. Who wouldn't? I'm going to validate, I'm going to love on myself. And then I'm going to say, all right, with that self-compassion, what can I do?
That's great.
Yeah, it's a hopeful message, I hope.
Well, so then my follow-up would be, how often do you have to stop and remind yourself of that? Like you personally running a business or being involved in a business as an entrepreneur, we would think for you this all may come easy, but how often do you have to stop and like, okay, Nate, self-talk, here we go, right?
Sometimes it's 2 to 3 times a week, sometimes it's 2 to 3 times a day.
Yeah.
Um, quite honestly, the other thing that really helps is people that can help you stay grounded when you're feeling wobbly.
Hmm.
Um, for me, it's my wife.
Okay.
She and I have built a culture of support that's taken a long time. And when I start getting the entrepreneur wobblies, she's able to support me emotionally in some things. And then there's other ways that I talk with other entrepreneurs and I say, hey, how are y'all feeling about this? But get your village together. If it takes a village to raise a child, it definitely takes a village to raise a business. Um, get your village that can help you with, you know, thinking through decision makings, help you with the inevitable emotional consequences of decisions. Um, find it's of course find mentors and things, but um, just don't try and do it alone. You can't.
Yeah.
There's some things that you have to do alone, which suck, and I hate those things. But as much as you can, get support because we're humans are just built that way. We do better as part of a village.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's great. Um, so with that being said, oh, actually, one more question. Does your wife have a background in therapy?
No, so she has her PhD in studying how parents talk to kids about sex. So
Oh,
between the two
okay.
of us, we have sex and money covered as like
Yeah.
topics. Dinner conversations are great.
Yeah.
Um, no, she doesn't have a therapy background clinical, but she does have quite a bit of exposure to mental health.
Yeah.
She's done her own therapy and poor poor her, but she's been married to a therapist long enough. She gets it.
Yeah. She's learned the tricks of the trade, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
she has her honorary counseling degree.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So in in your business, in the industry that you're in, which I would say is pretty focused, right?
Yes. Mhm.
What are the challenges or obstacles that you guys are facing as it relates to the business?
Honestly, the big thing is financial therapy is so new.
Mm.
It really only got started back in 2008. Um, I've been in the practice for about 6 years, which objectively is not very long, but because of how young the field is, I'm actually one of the old hats
Oh,
relatively,
okay.
which is kind of funny because I'm like, we're still figuring out what this means. I would say the biggest barriers with that though is people don't know that we exist or who we are. Um, there's I have a marketing plan and a marketing vision and all that kind of stuff, which if I'm being honest, I don't super love marketing as a whole, but I've had to do some mental shifts that this isn't about marketing. This is about advocacy. I'm advocating for a cause, or I'm advocating for something that I believe in, which is financial therapy. Um, I tell new financial therapists to the field, it's easy to be a big fish in a small pond, and financial therapy is a very small pond. Um, there's maybe 50 of us in the whole country.
Only
Um,
50.
yeah, so it's
Wow.
as far as like people that are trained in finances and in mental health, incredibly small group. So
Wow.
it honestly makes us as a business kind of easy to find or easier if you know where to look, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but we just need to get financial therapy out to the masses, really. Like what I would love is if this business model, which I'm very proud of, gets copied.
Hmm.
I would love if other people take this idea and run with it and make it better because financial therapy is bigger than my business. Like
Yeah.
this is something everyone needs. Everyone needs to know that, hey, we can work through our money stuff in a psychologically informed way. Um, so maybe I'll be the first, but I'm definitely not the last.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's a balance that is like, well, we want to try to increase awareness and do marketing for whatever that looks like, but we're also treating our patients and we're taking care of ourselves and like we have some bandwidth issues at some point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. There's aspects of the business that have real scalability issues. A private practice can only be so big.
Hmm.
Um, that's where I think the training becomes not only an important business solution, but also kind of a needs solution as well as I can train other therapists, other planners, other counselors to be more holistic. Then I'm reaching thousands of more people than I can personally see in my week.
Yeah. Almost a train the trainer type of a model.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Fascinating. Okay. So if you were to go back to your days at K-State, knowing what you know now, what would you tell yourself, your college self, knowing what you know now?
Ah, self-compassion, just like before, and go to therapy. Um, which
Perfect.
thankfully I did.
Yeah.
But so much of where I'm at now has come hard fought in one-on-one sessions that no one sees.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's true for a lot of business owners and just people in general. Like our growth occasionally is well viewed, but most of the time it happens on a personal, private level in small conversations, either with a therapist or a partner, in small conversations we have with ourselves in quiet moment. Like that's where we actually do the hard work of growing.
Mm.
So I think that's something I would encourage anyone. I'm owning my bias here. I'm pro therapy, but
Sure.
therapy is it can be a really big deal. You don't need just to go to therapy when, crap hits the fan. Like You can go when you're feeling okay, or you can go when you're feeling wobbly. You don't have to wait until it's crisis time. In
Yeah.
fact, it's probably a lot better if you don't.
Hmm. Oh, that's great. And would you give that same advice, or would you give different advice to anyone that was thinking about starting their own business?
Yeah, I think same advice. Go to therapy because starting your own business is going to pull on personal issues
Yeah.
inevitably. Um, Self-compassion. I think the other thing is um, pre-work can help post regrets. So do your homework beforehand, before you're like, I'm launching this, like really, really do your homework on like, okay, what do I want it to look like? Have someone else that you trust help you narrow it down.
Hmm.
Something my wife says, it's the worst when you're married to someone smarter than you. That she said, you can either go, you know, a million different directions, 1 inch, or you can go one direction, a million miles. Um,
Hmm.
that's especially true with business. Narrow down exactly what you want to do, what hole you're filling, what you want this to be. Um, I think it's really easy to be like, I can do everything all at once. You probably can't, and you probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
Um, Pick the thing that you know you want and go in that direction until you feel ready to add another thing.
That's great. That's great. I love that. Having worked with entrepreneurs and CEOs, business owners for such a long time, the stories that we tell ourselves about money or about emotions or the market, like there's so many different stories that we tell ourselves, right? It's really it's helpful for me to know that there's a profession out there that's so focused on the therapy around money, because those stories kind of drive us to make good decisions, bad decisions. They could be fiction, they could be nonfiction. Um, it's interesting. I should get you in the room with some of my CFOs, and we could really talk about the stories that money tells, both fiction and nonfiction, and how that impacts people. I had somebody tell me the other day that there's been more nonfiction stories written in Microsoft Excel than Microsoft Word. And he was talking about money,
Oh, I like that.
right? So,
Yeah,
right,
good.
spreadsheets and money and budgets and all the rest of that stuff, right? So, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah,
Um, Nate, this has been fantastic. I think I could probably benefit from some money therapy sessions with you, but we won't record them for my safety. But tell us how the audience can learn more about you, the business. How can they find you if they wanted to maybe come and make an appointment, or tell us about that.
yeah. Definitely reach out. I'm super open. The website is financialtherapyclinicalinstitute.com. It's a really long name. I'm working on shortening it. But yeah, Nathan Astle, financial therapist. Google me. I, I'm Googleable. What?
Yes.
Googleable.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to include my email and things in the show notes. But um, yeah, I don't buy, even if I'm not the right fit for you, I'm happy to point you to other people that I know and trust. As I said, it's a small group of us and we refer to each other all the time. So um yeah, please come to me. Let me get you the help you need. That is my biggest life goal.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Nate, thank you so much for sharing, for opening up and being vulnerable, and really for enlightening me and the audience on this concept of financial therapy, which uh, I hope continues to grow. And I'm glad that you're out there spreading the message for sure.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate you.
All right, sir. Thank you so much.